1975. He was appointed to the position as Registrar of the Treasury in 1881. He was the first black to ever have his signature on U.S. paper currency. Dr. Ralph Johnson Bruce, born in 1904, had a big, important role in World War II as the premium. Dr. Bruce drafted the UN Declaration of Human Rights. In 1949, he came up with the idea of an armistice between Israel and her Arab neighbors. He was the first black person to get the 1950 Nobel Peace Prize. Shirley Christian, born in 1924, was the first black woman to serve a term in Congress on 1968, and her journey continued when she served in the House of Representatives. She was mainly focused on education, healthcare, and social services. In 1972, she tried to run for a Democratic Party. Thurgood Marshall, born in 1908, won Brown versus Board of Education of Tucson, that whom he gained publicity as a lawyer. He was sworn in 1976 as the nation's first African American Supreme Court justice. He supported the rights of all citizens. Joseph Rainey, born in 1832, was the first black in the U.S. House of Representatives and the second in Congress. He became the longest in history to serve as an African American. While in office, he depended on some standing communities like the Freedoms Affairs and fighting for justice against all peoples. Herman Rose Revels, born in 1827, was the first African American in 1870 elected to the U.S. Senator and Congress. He had to battle racism and a challenge to his citizenship, which is in office. Robert C. Weaver, born in 1907, who was a noted economist in 1966, held a cabinet level position. Weaver was the head of the Housing and Urban Development. Mr. Weaver was HUD Secretary in 1968, passing the Fair Housing Act. In 2008, Barack Obama was considered the first black president of the United States of America. There was a lot of people upset, white people. Some I knew from the news on television took their anger out on other black people. But Barack Obama stood his ground and did a very good job in office. He was even selected to serve a second term in office. Considering the fact that the president before Barack Obama left a big, huge mess in the White House. But with the help of a good campaign and a good wife, before President of the United States of America, Barack Obama, and his wife was a senator in Chicago, Illinois. Still today, Barack Obama still makes appearances on television. While in office, he even had his own insurance called the Obamacare. His insurance is still in effect today. I even heard rumors about his wife, Michelle Obama, is going to try and run for president in 2020 alongside Oprah Winfrey. Today, Oprah Winfrey is considered as an American media premier, talk show host, actress, producer, and entrepreneur. She was considered the richest African American in the 20th century in North America, first multi-billionaire black person. Oprah Winfrey has been ranked the greatest black entrepreneur in American history. She is also considered to be the most influential woman in the world. A lot of black people gathered in Washington, D.C. to celebrate Barack Obama's election. Education was kind of hard for some slaves to receive because the white man didn't want the black people to know anything about education. There was some black that managed and was able to receive their education. Ashdown, Arkansas is part of the Little River County. Little River County was established in 1867 by an act of the state legislature of Arkansas. Located in the southwest corner of the state, settlements and communities had begun to in the area prior to establishment of Little River County. The first courthouse and jail in the county was located and formed owned by the first sheriff, W.M. Freeman, close to what is known as Alice. In 1868, martial laws was declared in Little River. The brand new courthouse that sits in Little River County was constructed in 1907 and remains today. Settlements and communities continue to develop within the county. Today, Ashdown is the Herbert of the county. Some of the towns have remains and have declared, some have disappeared completely. Little River County had its first railroad in 1889. Before the railroad, the Arkansas White River was used for transport of goods in and out of Little River County. The Arkansas White River was used for settlers and slaves during the stream boaters. It was mostly used for hunting and fishing into selling timber, agriculture, pearling, and boat making. Around 1903, Little River County started to operate passenger trains. In 1919, the Index Bridge was built over the Red River. The Index Bridge was created for a tall bridge for wagons. It was 1,600 long. In 1912, electricity and telephone services became available to Little River County. In 1930, Ashtown was able to use natural gas. In 1958, the first ever memorial hospital was constructed, and it still remains today. Agriculture for many years was the main source of income in Little River County. Corn was a very important factor. It was considered the second largest crop. In 1950, manufacturing plants was a big source in Little River County. When Millwood Lake was established, it was a great deal of help to Little River County as water is concerned. Little River County has over 54 cemeteries. Before the name Ashtown came along, early settlers used to refer to what is now Ashtown as Kellogg or Turkey Flat. Ashtown became well known when the Kansas City Railroad was started. At that time, the Kansas City Railroad had a spot marked off where the whites sit and where the blacks sit. The blacks had to sit at the back of the train, while the whites sit at the front. All the land that make up Ashtown in 1892 was owned by William and Mallory Walden. Ashtown was considered to be a boom town in 1904. Ashtown Hurry came to the Ashtown First newspaper, but later named Little River News in 1898. The first school in Ashtown was a one-room building owned by Alec Bishop. The kids in the Ashtown School District was rated to play basketball in 1930. The Little River Nursing Home was completed in 1963. Ashtown had its own radio broadcasting station in May 1972 called KMLA. In later years, that station was sold in 1983 to a broadcasting station in Texarkana. Another radio station in 1885 called KARQ started operating in Ashtown. A big change in Ashtown took place when the Nobakins Edwards paper mill was created in 1960. Ashtown has the largest paper mill in the world. In 1920, a horse-driven wagon was used to haul mail. In 1834, a family settled on some land. On this piece of land was 2 pine trees on the prairie. Therefore, the man started calling the plantation Pine Prairie. Pine Prairie is considered one of the earliest communities in the southeastern part of Little River County. The first ever Baptist church was established in 1843. The first public school was held in a sitting room in Pine Prairie. In 1919, Pine Prairie consolidated with the Ashtown School District. Students went to school in Pine Prairie from December to March, and then from July to September. Paytonville was located in 4 miles east of Ashtown. Pioneers started selling there in 1835. Paytonville had many jeans, stones, a school, church, and a post office. Paytonville is where the pioneers made syrup. In 1839, the first town that was established in Little River County was Langsport. The plot was recorded in Little River County in 1897. Foreman, Arkansas was another little town in Little River County. In 1850, the people in Foreman, Arkansas was another little town. In 1850, the people in Foreman referred to it as Rocky Comfort. Before Rocky Comfort, it was referred to the Willow Springs. A lot of businesses and churches was in Foreman during the 1850s. In 1895, it was called the New Rocky Comfort because of the stones in Rocky Comfort relocated near the railroad. In 1868 and 1902, Rocky Comfort was named the country county seat after it became the town of Foreman. The county government was held in two section buildings. In the 1800s and 1900s, Foreman had two newspapers called the Rocky Comfort Sun and Foreman Sun. In 1899, some former slaves wanted a school built so their kids could learn the things that they never learned. Not any of these slaves could read or write. They wanted their kids to be the first to change the world. When the slaves was able to get a school started, they had to determine who would teach the classes. During the church meetings, they would determine the school's teachers' pay. The masters and quarters provided the books so the kids could study from. They also studied a lot from the Bible. This considered to be a formal education for the black students at that time. Excuse me, station. Oh my Lord. During that time, children only attended school there to 4 months out of a year because they was needed at home to work in the fields. There were 10 white schools and 13 nigger schools. There were only 2 professional teachers in the county at that time. The other schools were taught by farmers, lawyers, and a few other who taught these short terms when their time was not obligated with their regular business. No, what you doing? In 1882, of the 2,300 students, 45% were white, 55% were niggers. Mr. Hoberson, after whom the school was named, begun a great institute to a small community of great people. The Hoberson School was a modest church building, Untitled Chapter CME Church, with 2 doors, one in the front and the other on the side or in the back. There were there were 3 windows. The building was whitewashed for beauty cast. There was lamps around the wall. School started at 8 o'clock until 3:30. One of the first students at Richmond for black children was the Little Bethlehem Church. Children would walk as many as 6 miles to school. Later on, classes were held at the Richmond Center School. Reverend Leon Turner was a student at Little Bethlehem School and a teacher at the Richmond Color School. He also attended Lane College in Jackson, Tennessee. In those days, a student could become a teacher after he or she finished the 8th grade. They would have to participate the county supervisor to give them an exam, and if they passed, they were licensed. The average enrollment was about 85 in the years between 1900 to 1925. There was no school board. There was a black board of trustees, and its members were Wade, Barbara, Will Farzo, Sheen Gully, Will Ray, Isaiah Duncan, Jerry Ducky, J.O. Taylor Sr. This board operated the color schools until the white board took over the move to the Roswell School in Ashton. The first school in Ashton was located down Pine Prairie Road at what is now known as